I'm Leah Lawrence.
And I'm her husband, Mitch Lawrence.
And you are listening to the Southern Spirits Podcast, where I regale my husband with Southern stories of the macabre, creepy, and strange.
And I drink.
So what are we drinking today?
Uh-oh.
Well, no.
Well, Leah, what we're drinking
No,
this
I think
week.
what you mean.
Oh, God, let's do the whole alcohol section that way. We're not going to do that.
Good.
Leah and I are not able to speak right now, I guess.
Sorry.
Okay, our beer tonight, Leah, is Spirit Guide Cherry Blackberry Sour, produced by Yellowhammer Brewing, Incorporated in Huntsville, Alabama. 5% alcohol by volume. Let's read the can. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I'm confused. Okay?
Okay.
It has a quote on it. So the quote is, "So let's run away, never to be found." And the quote ends, and then it says, "Bare hands." And that's everything on the can. I don't know what it means, but it has to do with the Spirit Guide thing, obviously, for the bare hands. But, like, the fuck does that mean, though? Okay. Leah, with her take on it?
I mean, my thought is maybe it's like I could go one of two ways. I'm thinking like a spiritual leader of some sort, maybe Native American or otherwise, or it's a band. I don't know. I'm Googling it now.
Okay, you Google. I'll talk about the beer. This tastes like you're eating a blackberry cobbler. By that I mean that it is sour at first with that blackberry flavor, a little bit of cherry cuts in there, but then it tastes like crust. It tastes like cobbler crust, and it's so damn good. It's amazing how a beer can just taste like a sweet bread, I guess. But, I mean, I guess technically most of them kind of even are liquid sweet bread, right? Because they're weedy.
Yes.
You know? But anyway, it's real good. Leah, do you like it too?
I do. I like it a whole lot, and the reason that I picked that one out is because it's just a fucking beautiful label. Mm-hmm. It's purple, and it's got real, like...
almost like a Dreamcatcher
crystal healing kind of looking, like almost a tarot card on the front of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But all of the like silver line work is holographic, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice. And it also tastes good, which is fun because we have never had something from Yellowhammer that we enjoyed a lot. Like, everything's been kind of okay. And I'm very happy to have this one because it's real good. Give it a 9.5 out of 10. Do you think that score is fair?
I do. I like it a lot.
Do you think it should have been 10?
I wouldn't go so far as to say it 10 because it is not Citricabra. Mm-hmm. But it's really good, and I like it, and I'm here for it. So
it's wonderful. Y'all go try it if you can find it anywhere. Our shot in the dark for the night: Gator Bite, Satsuma, and Rum Liqueur. We had it on just a few weeks ago. Bottled by Louisiana Spirits, LLC in La Cassine, Louisiana. 30% alcohol by volume. If you want to hear the full review, go back a few weeks to episode 111. It was called White Elephant Funeral. And you can get the full review. Got a 9 out of 10. It's real good, too. It's fun to take shots of, and that's exciting. And that's it for the alcohols, Leah.
Not so fast. I've Googled it.
Oh, Bare Hands.
And Bare Hands is a band.
Oh, is it?
And it's
I can't believe you got that right.
Yeah, it's a band. And it's I think the song is called Backseat Driver, and then in brackets says Spirit Guide, which I assume is why the beer is called Spirit Guide. So it is an ode to this band. And judging by the lyrics, okay, sure. I don't know. I'd have to hear it, but kind of simplistic sounding, but let's, like I said, we'll listen later and see if we vibe with the band or not. But that's what it's from. It is in fact a band.
Spoiler alert: I am not going to listen to them.
I'm going to listen to it just to see.
You try it out. You let me know if I should listen to it, because
we do not have the same taste in music.
No, but you know what mine are, so you tell me if I should. Been listening to a lot of folk recently. What the hell's wrong with me? Like new folk, like, whiny white guy with a guitar type folk. That kind of thing.
Well, I mean, to be fair, a lot of folk is whiny white guys with guitars, just depending on the variance of beard and how old the recording is.
I was going to say, it's like beards mid to now. Mid-2000s to now.
And to be fair, there are also some whiny white ladies in the folk scene as well, so.
Yeah.
I'm a big old Joan Baez fan,
Oh, God. Yeah, you are. I've been listening to a lot of Drew Holcomb.
Yeah.
I heard him for the first time in high school, like in the early 2000s, and just randomly came across it on Google Play the other day, and I was like, Oh, soon to be YouTube Music, by the way. They're not continuing Google Play anymore. And I was like, I don't remember Drew Holcomb being this enjoyable. Maybe I'm just older and a little bit more like, so maybe I just like it now. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with me, Leah. Maybe I'm just getting depressed.
I mean, join the club?
I'm fresh on the road to depression.
Once again, join the club?
Yeah. On the Depression Expressway, I believe.
Choo-choo.
No, we're not in trains. We're in automobiles. Maybe motorcycles. Oh, you ever been on a depression cycle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a cycle of depression.
It was a Honda Goldwing, actually.
Not a cycle of depression. Oh, was it one of those spider things?
No, Honda Goldwing's just one of those traveling...
One of those spiders has to be the most depressing motorcycles.
That would be fun to drive. No, the motorcycle I was talking about was my grandfather's old red one.
Yeah.
The 2-seater touring bike.
Yeah.
It's an old people's motorcycle.
Yeah. So they don't fall over, right?
No, it doesn't have like training wheels or anything on it. It's just like meant to drive long distances in.
Yeah. Running on empty. I'm just envisioning you riding a spider in the middle of the desert, listening to that song. Like that's the background song. Leah's just running on empty. She's crying in the helmet on the motorcycle.
I'm sorry, but I have way better sad music than that song.
Yeah. I was running wild.
I'm just saying, I'm a connoisseur of like super depressing music, and that does not even make the cut. I'm sorry.
I know, but I mean, if we're making a movie, that's the song we're putting in the movie.
I don't know.
For your desert
I feel like we would be a
scene.
low budget indie kind of situation, so it would need
we don't have
to
any
be.
money. Don't get me wrong, but like
we can't afford the rights to that fucking
we can't
song.
afford music, but we can make one that sounds a lot like it and being like motorcycling really close to being out of fuel in the desert.
All right. Well, we're already rambly. How about we go on to a sassy Southern saying?
All right.
All right. Well, this week we actually have a listener submission, which is exciting.
Oh.
And so I will read the email to you like we got it.
To me?
Yes.
Thank you.
It says, "Hey, Leah and Mitch, I finally remembered a sassy Southern saying from my granny, at least one that can be used in public."
You want to say who this is from first?
No, she signed it at the end.
Okay. All right.
That's how that works. Anyway.
Sorry.
We are from Nashville, Tennessee, and she was a definite granny, not a grandma or a nana or anything like that. The saying is, you can get glad in the same pants you got mad in.
Oh, I know that one.
It was used when you were upset about something and granny didn't have time to deal with your shit. Yeah. If I remember any more that are PC, I will share. Jackie.
Why do they have to be PC?
Well, I mean...
Oh, you're right. Some granny sayings are pretty racist.
I'm just saying, like, if my granny, who is generally not as bad as a lot of them that I know, has a few that I wouldn't say. Yeah, I could see that. They definitely, yeah,
they're all vaguely racist, though. None of them are blatant.
Not
I know what you're talking
but
about.
There are some grannies out there that have blatantly racist
I know
sayings,
what you're talking about, but like oftentimes insects are involved in these sayings. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just, I can't think of one, but you know what I'm talking about. Because, I mean, first of all, I'm not going to say it. But, there's always like, you can ladybug, or you know what I mean.
There's just one that I know that the first time that I ever like realized that like someone in my family could possibly be racist, it was a saying like that. Yeah. And I just, it was a phrase that was like, I finally understood what it meant. And I was like, what? But I was in third grade and literally had no idea that it was possible for people to be racist still, because I thought that it was solved, we were good, but apparently I was wrong. So well, yay third grade, Leah.
What's interesting is we haven't been around them enough recently with all of the quarantining and everything, but your grandfather was getting comfortable with me on a level that, like, I think he thinks that I'm racist. And he would say things to me that were like, he shouldn't be saying, and I would just like, all right, well, I'm going to go to the other room.
Oh, yeah.
cool.
I've always treated it like that. I either, if it's something that I'm comfortable calling him out on, I'll say, dude, no, and just leave the room. And that just sort of, he knows not to say that shit around me, so it's fine.
I don't say that. I do the white guy thing of like pursing my bottom lip and going and nodding and leaving the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well.
That thing.
That's why he still says shit in front of you and not me.
Right. Well.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe, yeah, he probably thinks that I'm going off to laugh in the other room, but
that's a no.
I'm definitely not.
But anyway, enough about racism. God damn, Leah.
Yeah.
What a segue.
Yeah.
Oh.
Speaking of racism, that's how you segue.
Yeah. No, for real though, if anybody else has a sassy Southern saying or a saying that is regional to your part of the United States and or other country, I'm totally open to some fun colloquialisms from other countries. I think that would be fun to just like sort of sassy saying corner up at the top, and if it's from a different place, we'll just talk about it. It's fun. I like to know about things from other places, other cultures, and share our own. So if anybody has a fun saying that you know, falls along the lines of something a grandparent would tell you, send it in, southernspiritspodcast@gmail.com, and I'd like to read those at the top. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in for it. That first of all, it cuts out work for you. So,
Yes.
You know.
Not gonna lie. Probably a big motivating factor, but it's also just fun.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you, Leah. And the less work that you have to do, the better I feel.
Since when?
Well, since always. I don't want you to have to work. You know, I don't want you to have to do things. I want you to be my trophy wife and stay home and fucking do the dishes. Shit.
Hey, I've done the dishes like the last 2 fucking times they've gotten done.
I know.
Leave me alone, ho.
I know. I need to do the dishes.
All right. So, now that we've got our domestic duties divided, let's talk about that very first episode. Story.
Let's talk about our first episode. Flashback Friday. It is Friday. Flashback Friday.
So our first episode was
Don't really talk about the first episode.
No, for real. It was Condi, the ghost from my old dorm, and then
I know what it was.
Then I think it was Captain Reynolds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was both of those 2 stories. So, yay!
Okay. And why are we talking about it?
Well, because you told me. I don't know. Sorry, y'all. Mitchell, you should probably cut all of this out. Anyway,
no, it's fine.
We are going to talk about our very first story of the evening, and we are talking about Smiley's ghost from Garland, Texas.
All right. I can't wait to learn who Smiley is.
All right. Well, you're about to learn.
Is it like Slimer?
No. Well, no. No.
Okay.
So we're talking about Garland, Texas, which is a relatively small town. And we are talking about a cemetery there in town called Mills Cemetery, and it's located on Commerce Street, if anybody's interested. And it was first established, I guess, in 1860. So we are talking about a particular gravestone. It's kind of a medium-sized stone, and it has the name Smiley written on the top of it.
Oh, interesting.
So, shot in the dark.
That's way too quick. Way too quick.
So, this cemetery has a grave, and it's called Smiley's grave, the one that I was just describing. It is a bit unusual. I want you to tell me why it's unusual.
Because it has Smiley on the top of it?
Is it A, the grave of a horse? Is it B, the headstone is upside down? Or C, multiple people are buried in the one grave?
I like the idea of it being a horse, so I'm going to say it's a horse.
You are incorrect, sir. You are.
All right, let me find the buzzer. Sorry, I was pouring the shot. I don't have time to do all of this shit, Leah. I'm busy. I'm super busy. Okay, what was the answer?
There are multiple people buried in the single grave.
Oh.
So this cemetery has that gravestone, and it has 5 people from the same household, all buried in the same plot, and their names are all engraved on it. So the family's names are on the stone. Are you okay?
That was rough.
I'm sorry.
Like, I was not prepared. Oh, I just got the chills.
So on the stone, it says Smiley at the top. It says Mother Belle Hall, Father Chaz Oscar, daughters Lilith Merle, Greta May, and Charlena. And they all died on the very same day. So they died on May the 9th of 1927. And all 5 family members were buried in the same grave plot. So the question is, though, they all died on the same day. They're all buried in the same place. What the fuck happened? Like, that's catastrophic for a whole family to just at the same time.
They were trampled by a horse named Smiley.
They were not. Their last name was Smiley. So there are a couple of different stories about this, and I'm going to tell you the spooky one.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So the story goes that Mr. Smiley, Mr. Chaz Oscar Smiley, was a total dickwad. He was just a mean old asswipe that you just, what a jerk. The standard, like, drinking and beating folk kind of dude. Like, he was just not a good person. And one day, he like has fits of rage kind of things. He had like a problem with fits of rage. So he lost his temper one day, and he got so pissed off and so angry and just filled with blind rage that he killed his wife and 3 daughters.
Jesus.
And then after he like calmed down a little bit and realized that he had just fucking killed his wife and 3 daughters, he was like, damn, I'm a douchebag. And he hung himself, because he was sad or something, or he just knew that the town was going to hang him anyway, so might as well take care of it for him,
Well, sounds an awful lot like, God, who was that wrestler? Was it Chris Jericho that did that back in like 2007?
Doesn't sound right. I thought it had Benoit.
Yeah, Chris Benoit. I'm so sorry, Chris Jericho. I know you're a fervent listener.
Sound like the
right. I
knew it was
that's
like a
why
French
Chris Jericho
name.
was in my mind, because he's such an adamant listener that Chris Jericho contacts us regularly. But yeah, it was Chris Benoit.
Yeah.
He did. He killed his wife and infant son and then hung himself with workout equipment, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was fucked up. Like, he was the same way. He was all hopped up on drugs and then came down and like realized what he did and was like, kind of fucked up here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that's me contributing. Continue.
Woo! What a contribution. Anyway.
Sorry. Apologies to Chris Jericho.
I don't even know what a Chris Jericho is, but
wrestler.
Don't put people's names out there for violent, awful crimes if they're not the ones that you sure did it. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, that's why I asked. It was a question. People can ask if I did it. It's okay. I might sue, though, so don't do it.
Mm-mm. All right. So, and then obviously they buried them all in the same plot, because there wasn't anybody left to pay for everything, so might as well economically bury everybody, right?
I agree.
So the Mill Cemetery is a pretty big, like a tourist attraction in that area because of this grave. And it's a tourist attraction because there is a whole like urban legend kind of thing that has grown up around this particular grave plot. So just like there are different things that kids dare each other to do on Halloween or whatever in other locations. Like in Hartselle, we have a Crybaby Hollow, and you're supposed to go out and put your car in neutral on the bridge, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, they have a similar thing with this particular grave. So what you're supposed to do in this cemetery is that, well, first, the cemetery is supposed to have a lot of like active haunting kind of situations. A lot of people report that there are like orbs, glowing lights that you can actually see in the daytime, or not the daytime, at night, but like visually, not just with a camera.
Okay.
They say that there are orbs that can be found there. You can hear sort of a moaning sound occasionally. There's, twigs snapping, a general spooky air, but obviously, because it's a cemetery and your brain's already there. So, okay, sure. And they say that if you stand on the Smiley's grave in the dark, you just get this sense of sadness and foreboding, which yeah, you're standing on a grave of a family that may have gotten murder-suicided. Yeah, I'd say that'd make me feel sad, but there you go. And they say that you will have a really hard time keeping your balance when you're standing on it, that you'll get really disoriented, and you can even feel sort of wind around your ankles, like trying to knock you over. And then they also say, specifically on Halloween at midnight, the dare, I guess, for the kids is you're supposed to lay down on top of the Smiley's grave at midnight on Halloween, and you're supposed to be able to feel pressure on your chest as if like a pair of arms is coming up around you and pulling you down into the grave. And so that's the big like urban legend kids dare kind of situation to this particular story. And apparently if you stay there long enough, Mr. Smiley is haunting the place and wants to drag you into the grave to add another person, because why not, you know?
Yeah.
We got 5 in here, let's keep going. So the actual story behind these people and their grave is that we really don't have any recorded actual history as to whether that first massacre kind of story was true or not. A lot of people have done research into that area at the time, and there's not a whole lot of mention of the family in general. So it's kind of hard to trace what was going on at the time. So some people think that the family was actually killed in a tornado that came through Garland, Texas on the same day, which was May the 9th of 1927, which would totally make sense. That's kind of where my brain is going. But
is there documentation of that tornado?
There is documentation of the tornado because it killed the mayor. And it killed like 9 other people, including a mayor, but they were not listed on the list of people that died in the tornado. So a lot of people say it can't be that because they weren't listed, they weren't recorded, and, you know, it was pretty well documented who died in the tornado. So other people also say there's another sort of legend that goes along with this that's separate from the whole he was an asshole, killed everybody. So the other story is that there was a developer, like someone who wanted to buy their property and build like a road or a railroad, something through their property. And Mr. Smiley wouldn't sell it to him because, I mean, he was running a farm, so fuck off. And so in order to try to make him sell the land, his plan was to burn down the house when he knew that they were out visiting people. And unfortunately, he didn't realize that they had changed their plans, and he burned it down with all of them in it.
Oh, God.
So that was another story that gets attached to this particular grave as well. So no one really knows exactly which story is true or if any of those stories are true. So you got a violent murder-suicide, you've got being ripped away and killed in a natural disaster, or burnt to death in your own home. So none of that sounds great. And all of that sounds like a reason that someone would be haunty about it, you know?
None of those sounds like a way I want to go.
No, none of that.
Right.
No, thank you. So like I said, there's clear reason for haunting, I guess, if you're being done away with in one of those ways. So like I said, it is a pretty known ghost in the area and in that graveyard, and a lot of people come to visit to see Mr. Smiley. Regardless of how he died, they say that he haunts that area, and in fact will attempt to get you into his grave if you dare to lay on top of it. Ooh, spooky.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, that's all I got. Spooky.
Yeah, it's
I want some spooky, like, creepy noises. You got anything?
I got a light. I've got a scream. Oh, well, first I have an ad pop up. I've got a scream.
It's a lame scream.
Yeah, I mean, I wish they got a crow. That's kind of creepy.
Yeah, there we go.
Do that a bunch.
That's what I was looking for.
Oh, well.
That's plenty. Thank you.
Spooky. And then in the distance, oh God, somebody broke the window. It was a cat.
God, your soundboard is so bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's free. What do you want from me?
To use some of that Patreon money to get yourself some fucking sound effects that aren't terrible.
The telephone call is coming from inside the house. Leah, you stepped on it. If this doesn't scare you.
Is that your CPAP machine?
I mean, kinda. It's Vader. Like, that's just the name of the thing on here.
Pretty sure that's just you breathing with your CPAP. But
that's
whatever.
me fast asleep after 3 beers with my CPAP machine on.
All right. Well, that's enough of our sound effects.
Why don't we talk about ways that we want to die? Because, we said none of those sounds like ways that I want to go. What's your thing? Or a thing that you definitely don't want to... A way that you definitely don't want to die?
Drowning sounds abso-fucking-lutely miserable.
Yeah, it does. Or being crushed. Like, slowly crushed. You know?
One of my biggest fears legitimately is being trampled by a crowd.
Yeah.
And I can't be in huge crowded situations without like really going to a zen place, because like most of the time I can handle concerts as long as I've got an exit. And I will always, if I'm in a room that's big, even when I was in college, I would always sit as close to the door, or at least have a clear path to the door. That is one of my biggest things that I cannot handle, not having a clear path to exit from. I don't like sitting in interior seats in theaters. I don't like, I'll do it because you generally don't get to pick. But if I can sit on an aisle, down for it. Like, I just don't do being blocked in very well. Because I'm terrified of being trampled. It's a thing.
Mine, I came up with this, and I still remember it. It was in 10th grade. We were about to, I believe, read The Pit and the Pendulum, I believe. And, that's like a torture story, right? Yes. With just the pendulum slowly swinging down onto the guy. And anyway.
I had a Poe face.
Yeah, you definitely had a Poe face. But so the teacher, in preparation for that, said, real quick, we're just going to do a quick exercise. I want you all to write down what you believe would be the worst or most torturous, I'm not sure exactly how she phrased it, way to die. And it was one of those times when a question gets asked and it immediately pops in my head and I go, I've got the fucking answer. Because everybody said things like that, like drowning or being burned alive and that kind of thing. And I said being stabbed with spoons. You know why?
Why?
Because it would take a real fucking long time.
No, the worst.
Just hundreds of spoons, just like everybody around you with spoons, just poking you.
One of the worst torture methods that I've ever read about that just freaks me out is I don't remember which civilization it was, something Middle Eastern, I think. But they basically would shove you in a log and like baste you in honey and let all the bugs like eat you alive.
Yeah, I've heard that from both ends. Because
and
it's
like
called boating actually, because it's called boating. They would turn a boat upside down onto you, cut out a hole for your head and your arms.
I don't think there was a boat involved in what I was talking about.
It's the same thing though, but they cover you in sweet stuff and they just leave you. And the bugs eat you from the outside, but you're also, excreting all of your waste on the inside, and the maggots are coming up and eating you from the inside of the boat. And that was one of the things we talked about when we were doing The Pit and the Pendulum, was talking about boating.
See, I've never heard it being a boat. It was always a log, but anyway.
It's fucked up.
Yeah, I'm good. So gross. Yeah, because they would feed you milk and honey, which causes violent diarrhea. Yeah. So
and then coat you with milk and honey.
Yeah. It's real gross.
Yeah.
Whew. That's nasty. Anyway.
It's a terrible way to go.
From one way of murdering someone to another, are you ready for our second story?
Oh, tell me they got stabbed to death with spoons.
It wasn't a spoon.
Oh, man. Well, what was it then?
The blunt side of an axe.
Oh, I told you a story about the blunt side of an axe one time. Well, it was an axe handle.
That's not the same thing.
I know, but you get what I mean. Like, you have an axe, but then, like, you're not using it. Yeah. Come on, man.
Well, for our second story of the evening, we are going to be talking about the voodoo murders of Clementine Barnabette.
Oh, okay. So this has got to be in Louisiana, doesn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Shot time for you.
I'll take it. I don't care.
No. Tell the story.
All right. Oh, no, I really will take it.
You want a shot?
Stuff's
Yeah, it's pretty good. Oh, Leah. God damn it.
What?
You said it.
I said the fucking D word. Yeah. Damn it.
Well, after we fix your mistake.
Sorry.
You can go ahead and take this shot.
I apologize. I really do.
We have to be taking care of Tom, Leah.
I apologize, Tom.
Yeah. Thank you for at least apologizing. Because that was a dick move.
It really was.
Yeah. It really was. Hey, that does wash down really well with the spirit guide, by the way. So you enjoy that. Isn't that nice? Yeah, chills, right? Chills. We're just going to sit here in silence. I don't want to vamp anymore. Oh, there. I don't know if y'all can hear that because she's far away from her microphone, but Leah had quite the bout with the burps right there. Oh, come on, get going. Shit.
That was deeply unpleasant, Mitchell. Ooh.
Oh.
I remember that being an easy shot. What happened?
I don't know, but you've said that to me so many times.
Ugh.
That was deeply unpleasant.
Yeah, it's true. Anyway, oh.
It's been a long 4 years.
We are talking about Louisiana, and we are talking about a lady named Clementine Barnabette. And so let's get into it.
Okay.
So we are starting in the city of West Lafayette, Louisiana, or in
Lafayette,
west of Lafayette in Louisiana. There's a city called Crowley. Crowley? Probably
Crowley.
Probably Crowley. And they're...
Creole. Pwned. That's how I said. Leah likes that so much that she can't speak right now.
No.
She's upset at how much she liked that pun.
Disagree. So on February the 11th of 1911, the bodies of Walter J... Oh, sorry. Before we get into the voodoo murders...
Oh.
Trigger warning, there's murders, and yes, there are some children involved. It gets a little bloody because, that axe thing. So, just saying, if you don't want to be involved in that, click off. Love y'all. Okay, I'm back. All right.
You click off.
So, on February the 11th of 1911, the bodies of Walter J. Byers, his wife, and their young son were found brutally murdered in their home. Which is not great.
No, it's not.
So they were found laid out on their bed with a literal bucket of their blood, like in a corner, and they found the axe that they were killed with just hanging out at the head of the bed. And they had been brutally beaten in the head with the back end of an axe. Like there was brain tissue and blood spatter, and it was just a fucking nasty situation in there. And so the investigators showed up and they're like, holy crap, this is real bloody. And they realized that all of the doors were locked from the inside. And so they believed that the perpetrator actually got in through a window. And this was all startling and kind of uncomfortable, but it was just one family, just one murder, and they were in kind of the quote bad area of town. And by that I mean basically it was segregation era, and that's where all of the black people lived, and so they didn't really care that much because fucking Louisiana, man.
I agree.
So they just sort of let it go for a little while, basically. I mean, they investigated a little bit, but not a lot. So, yeah. So, they kind of got a little bit more interested in the case when 2 weeks later, on February the 24th of 1911, they discovered... So, it was two families living in almost a duplex situation. And so it was a daughter and her family living next to her parents and her younger brother. And so the younger brother, and I want to say his name is Les Amis Felix. I don't know.
All right.
Her brother just runs over there to to give them something or do something. And he finds the bodies and is like, holy fuck. And so he comes back to his mom and is like, hey, my sister and the whole family's been murdered. And they freak out, obviously. And they call the police officers. And the police officers find that indeed the entire family has been murdered. So
no one
Alexandre Andrus and his wife, whose name was Mimi, and their son Joachim and their daughter Agnes were all found murdered exactly like the Byers case. So they were in their beds, beat with an axe. There were like buckets of blood, and I'm not talking about like just a large amount of blood. I mean, like, blood had been drained into a literal bucket.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Why?
Fucking weird, right?
Yeah.
And so they had also been beat with the blunt end of an axe in the head while they slept. And they found that axe at the foot of the family's bed. And they were also... So the mother and the father, Alexandre and Mimi, had been moved after they died. And the killer put them into a kneeling position beside the bed, kind of like they were praying, which made everybody go, excuse me, what? That's creepy. And everybody was like immediately like, okay, this is a real problem now. It's happened more than once. We feel like it's going to keep happening. We should probably do something now.
I don't like it.
So the sheriff was like, we think we have a suspect. So they, even in the newspaper, said, yeah, we think it's this guy. And he's a, quote, lunatic, recently escaped from the psychiatric facility. And his name is Garcon Godfrey. Turns out it wasn't him. But that's who they named.
Well, that's fucked up.
Right. So the next killing happened outside of Louisiana, which is a little weird. So on March the 22nd of 1911, so the next month, a man named Louis Cassaway and his wife and their 3 children were all murdered the exact same way. So they were, beaten to death with the axe. The axe was left behind. But once again, they were in San Antonio, Texas, and not Louisiana, which is a little confusing. Mm-hmm. And what was also weird was that in the previous 2 cases, all of the victims had been African American. In this case, the mother in the household was white and the children were biracial. So the cops were kind of like, oh, maybe it's like a hate crime against people that are like mixed race couples, which doesn't make sense because the other 2 weren't.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, there's something here. And they're not sure what it is. But eventually, their little investigation turned up a suspect. And his name was Raymond Barnabet. So, Mr. Barnabet was just a poor, petty criminal kind of dude living in Lafayette,
But he knew how to
Louisiana.
do voodoo, didn't he?
Do what?
He knew how to do voodoo, though, didn't he?
I don't think so. So, Raymond had a pretty long rap sheet. He was known to be a little bit of a drunk around town. He had a real bad temper. Not the greatest dude in the world. And so when they were asking around town for different leads, has anybody seen anything, that kind of thing, his mistress was like, hey, police, I'm pretty sure Raymond did it. So they brought him in and they brought her in, and basically they were known to fight a lot, and like he was a little abusive and she was a little abusive, and it was just kind of a toxic situation.
Mm-hmm.
And
kind of like our marriage, right?
I'm not going to turn you in for murder, sweetheart. It's fine.
But I mean, I just meant our toxicity towards each other.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
how
that's
much
fine.
we fight all the time. And you're very abusive, though.
I'm not, though.
Yeah, well.
I'm a sweet, adorable, loving wife that's never said a bad thing about you ever.
Yeah, you're a sociopath.
Anyway, you can just divorce me later. It's fine.
Yeah. Just don't kill me.
I won't. I promise.
Thank you.
So Mr. Mr. Barnabet was like, "What are you talking about, mistress?" They never give her name, so I'm just going to call her mistress. What are you talking about? I did not kill those people. And she was like, "Don't you remember when we were fighting the other day? You were like, I totally killed those people." And so the police were like, "Oh, good enough." And they arrested him and they put him in jail.
What you talking about, mistress?
So in the fall of 1911, Mr. Barnabet, excuse me, went on trial in Louisiana for the murder of...
Oh, Leah's got the hiccups. We will never get finished.
Nope. Oh, that shot, man. Bad choices. Anyway, so the murder, he was... Let's try that again.
Okay.
Raymond Barnabet was put on trial in Louisiana for the murders of all three of those families. And to add insult to injury in this situation, his children, who were named Zephyrin and Clementine Barnabet, testified against him, which is weird. A lot of the times family members will not do that. But they were like, we don't like him. We don't like him that much, so we're just going to testify against him. And Clementine told this really crazy, awful, graphic story about how her dad came home one night and he was covered in blood, and the brother was like, yeah, it totally happened.
No, it doesn't.
And he also said that Mr. Barnabet came home saying that he had killed the whole damn Andrews family. So obviously, if your kids are saying this bad shit about you, the jury's like, oh, it's probably, I bet he did it.
Mm-hmm.
So they convicted him, and he was sentenced to life in prison. But in October of 1911, in October they convicted him, but soon after, he was proven to be innocent because another murder happened.
Oh, God.
And he was in jail, so,
So this guy did not know the voodoo.
Clearly did not know the voodoo.
Oh, shit.
So on October the 27th of 1911, they granted him a new trial because, he had been drunk throughout that first trial, and they were like, yeah, his testimony's probably not great if he was drunk the whole time.
I was going to say, can't they, not try you because you're not completely cognitively there?
Yeah, which is why he got a retrial.
Right? So, that's something that I need to do if I ever get on trial for something, is just get so
show
fucked
up real
up
drunk.
that they're like, well, we can't try him today. Somebody keep the alcohol away from him. And I'm like, that's not going to happen.
So, the jury... also had failed to follow the judge's instructions about deliberation. I don't know what that means exactly, but that was another thing.
Yeah.
And then also, the prosecution never even offered a motive for what he did. He was just like, yeah, his kids say he did it, think he did it. And that was about the extent of the evidence, quote, that they had of it. So it was a really shitty trial and kind of weird. But eventually, they let him go because on November the 27th of 1911, another murder scene was found. So a man named Norbert Randall, his wife Azima, and their 4 children were all found murdered inside of their home on Lafayette Street. Same way as the rest of them. They had been beaten to death with the blunt side of an axe. Another odd thing, Norbert had actually been shot first because I guess he had gotten up because he heard something. I don't know. But he was shot first and then also hit with the axe. And they also found that murder weapon at the crime scene. And it was, just another murder that was the exact same MO as the rest of them. So they were like, yeah, we're pretty sure that he couldn't have done it. So he walks free. So after all of these murders have been happening in this area of Louisiana, everybody's fucking terrified because obviously,
they haven't
entire
found
families are being slaughtered in the night,
and the police have nothing.
The police have absolutely nothing, and so it's a real big problem. And so after they had all of that happen in their community, a bunch of people, about 150 of the townsfolk, decided to meet at Good Hope Baptist Church in Lafayette, and they had just sort of a citizens watch kind of meeting, and they were telling people, hey, sleep with weapons nearby, make sure, have watch, go on watches, making sure, that kind of thing in your neighborhoods and all that stuff. And it also demanded action from the police, because obviously the police didn't do a great job of policing their areas because they didn't feel like they had to. Some of the same fucking issues we're still struggling with today. But one of the main things that came out of this particular meeting was the fact that there were whispers and rumors about the Barnabette family, and that they got the right family, but they got the wrong member of the family. Mm-hmm. So the whispers were that the daughter was fucking creepy as hell, and maybe you should go check her out too. And so when the police came back to the Barnabette's family home, they started looking around. They got a warrant to search, and so they searched. And they found several bloody sets of clothing belonging to the 17-year-old daughter, Clementine. Now...
Did you say 17?
17.
Okay.
And they found several sets of women's clothes that were completely, soaked in blood. Some still had brain matter on them.
Oh.
Yeah. And they also found blood on the door going into Clementine's room. Mm-hmm. And so they were like, oh, yeah, we totally got the wrong one. It's that one. So they arrest her. And they send her to jail. So yeah, it was pretty bad. But what's really weird though is so Raymond, the father, is still in prison at this time, but he gets let go later on. And then Clementine are both in jail, but then another murder that matches this same similar kind of event happens. Mm-hmm. And that happens in January of 1912. So they were called the Broussard family, and they were in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and this was a pretty bad one. They were all obviously really bad, but they've escalated in this particular situation if they're related. So the father, Felix, his wife, their 3 children were all murdered, like the rest of them had been, with a blunt axe and all of that stuff. But they also had drained all of the children of their blood and put them in buckets left at the foots of their beds. And there was a message written in blood on one of the home's walls. Mm-hmm. And it said, when he maketh the inquisition for blood, he forgetteth not the cry for of the humble. Which is sort of a bastardization of an actual psalm. So the psalm is 912 in the King James Version, but it was written incorrectly. So the actual phrase, the verse from the Bible is, when he maketh an inquisition for blood, he remembereth them, the forgotten, he remembereth them, he forgetteth not the cry of the humble. And the way it's quoted is actually from Uncle Tom's Cabin, which is weird. So it's just a weird, fucking strange, why kind of situation. And so then all the papers in the town start calling it like a sacrifice. And the words "the human 5" were also found written on the crime scene as well. Mm-hmm. And so at this point, newspapers start calling it voodoo worshippers that have been doing these murders.
I was about to say, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah. So at this point, like I said, voodoo had never been even talked about, whispered about. It was not a thing until this particular murder happens. And the newspapers are like, oh, that's some spooky shit. Must be devil worshippers, that was their immediate go-to situation. Yeah. And so while they were in jail, Clementine had access to the papers and the news and stuff like that, and she knew what was going on. And so I think in her mind, she just kind of oh yeah, voodoo, totally a great spin to this story. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's awesome to publish that. People are going to read it now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Lots and lots of people read this, and they're focused on the situation because it's so sordid, and there's that element of the occult, which is always like that mysterious, like, let's learn about it kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so, despite that murder happening while she was imprisoned, they didn't let her go because she had already confessed to some murders, and they had already found, a blood-soaked clothes and brain matter. So she'd killed someone, but let's get the whole story from her. So Clementine was obviously a weird kid, and all of the newspapers that interviewed her were like, yeah, she's fucking weird. And eventually, even though, like I said, she was in jail for that big murder of the Broussard family, the super weird one, which, once again, they're all weird. Don't murder people.
I was going to say, what do you mean the super weird one?
Well, I mean, there was an escalation because there was a more intricate crime scene with writing on the wall and all of that stuff. So she actually does end up confessing to personally murdering quite a few people. So shot in the dark.
Oh, fucking shit. I know what the question's going to be.
How many murders did Clementine confess to?
Oh, God.
Was it A, 6 murders, B, 17 murders, or C, 29 murders?
I'm going big. I'm going 29.
You're incorrect.
Oh, come on, Leah. What? You knew I was going to go for 29.
So she confessed to 17 murders that she did personally, but she was also claimed to be involved in the murder
12 more
of about 35 people.
Oh, fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So her confession...
Splitting hairs here.
Yeah, her confession was very dubious, but that's what she confessed to. And she was examined by a lot of doctors, and most of them thought that she was perfectly fine. Kind of like the 8 out of 10 doctors or dentists think that the gum's good. It was 8 out of 10 doctors thought she was sane enough to stand trial,
Yeah.
So they took it. It was fine. She tried it or whatever. And so they, put her on trial, and she was convicted. And she was sent to Angola State Penitentiary, which is real bad, by the way. And she also tried to escape from prison pretty much immediately, but they recaptured her on the same day. But anyway, they got this whole story out of her. And the story basically, according to her, and once again, she's 17 years old and has murdered someone, but which one, why, etc. is very shady and nobody really knows.
Yeah.
But in her confession, she claimed that she belonged to a secret cult called the Church of Sacrifice.
Oh, God.
And the cult had a secret, inner circle called the Human Five Gang. And yeah, right. And they were supposed to have been part of this, real life actual church that was around. So it was the Christ Sanctified Holy Church, which was an evangelical church. It's sort of like what the today's mega churches are, but instead of being one huge congregation, it was like a franchise church. You know what I mean? So they had one main pastor that started this group called King Harrison, and he traveled all along the Southern Pacific Railroad line in that area preaching, and then they would have different congregations that would form. And so they all were kind of loosely related, but it wasn't like a one big church kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so she claimed that this preacher guy encouraged his congregation to, quote, use lethal discipline against any wayward members. And she claimed that she killed the Randalls because they were backsliding Christians and she had to, And so they brought in that King Harrison, and he was like, yeah, that's not at all what I preach. Thank you very much. Not involved. There's no such thing. And they interviewed hundreds of parishioners, and everybody's like, yeah, no, that lady's crazy. Literally not involved. And the preacher was even super upset, kind of thinking that he had something to do with it just because she had said something. He was worried that he he had preached in a way that had caused her to do something like that, and he was very upset by it. But they kind of cleared the whole church of having any actual involvement, and nobody had any kind of proof or even had ever heard of something like that. There was no whisperings, no secret. It only seemed to like actually exist in this girl's head. But people had already started labeling her as a voodoo priestess in the paper, and she had access to those papers. So I'm pretty sure she just sort of like glommed onto that and like took it and ran with it, you know? Like, let's make the most interesting story we can.
She wants to be important too.
Yeah. And it also didn't help. So like the papers were already calling her this voodoo priestess murderer, which once again, not even like any kind of shred of evidence that she practiced any sort of voodoo whatsoever. But, you know, it was a good story, so they ran with it, and she ran with it. And so they had started calling her, you know, a voodoo priestess, and they were like, well, how did you get into it? Whatever. And she claimed that the way she got away with the murders mostly was that she had gotten an invisibility charm from this man named Joseph Thibodeau, and he was actually a practitioner of magic, but he was like a hoodoo root worker kind of dude, had nothing to do with actual voodoo, was not a voodoo priest of any sort. He was just like your local medicine man. He made good luck charms and something to clear your cold up. You know what I mean? He was not at all involved with anything other than just like herbs. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so that whole situation got really bad for him for a while, but eventually, you know, he was absolved of any kind of crime because he had nothing to do with it. So basically, she just told everybody that she was just this evil voodoo sorceress that had killed all of these people. And it just made the most sensational, like, thing. But people still don't know who actually committed the rest of these murders. Because she claimed that she was a part of this big cult, and there was, like, 5 other members that were each working together to kill all of these people in these sacrificial, ritualistic ways. And she was even naming people. But the problem is none of those people were real people. Like, they didn't exist. And so anytime she would send them on these, like, wild goose chases trying to find the rest of these cult members, like, I mean, there was literally nothing there. Like, there was absolutely nothing there. So people have sort of looked back on this particular crime, and they believe that she did commit maybe 2 or 3 of these murders in the time period, but they also believe there were copycat killers that probably were doing some other ones. But it's just a real mystery as to what all was going on, because like I said, we do believe, I mean, she was found with fucking bloody clothes and brains all over. So she killed one of them, but did she kill all of them? Which ones did she kill, etc.? And
was voodoo involved?
We're pretty sure voodoo was not involved at this point. Like I said, it was just one of those, like, and I love it because all the articles are like the voodoo murders, and then halfway down they're like, yeah, we're pretty sure there wasn't any voodoo involved. And so they're still using that same tabloid gotcha clickbait title to get people to click on it. I mean, and it is more interesting if you say voodoo murders than just, hey, this probably mentally ill 17-year-old killed a bunch of people. Like,
I don't know. I still think that's pretty interesting because you're only 17.
Yeah, she was only 17.
Let's talk about that. You know?
And because she was a youthful offender, she didn't serve a whole lot of time. So she was locked up in Angola for a while. And then she, I think she spent maybe 10 years in prison. And then she was released for good behavior. Yeah. So she walked away from it, and there really isn't any other, like,
nobody kept tabs on her?
Nobody kept tabs on her, and there is no sort of, no one knows what happened to her after she left prison. You know what I mean? or if they do, they ain't talking about it. And what's weird too is we've talked about a couple of the other cases that are tangential to this one. So that, like, in the same time period as we're talking about, the late 1910s, Louisiana had other axe murderers, and so did Texas. So we've talked about the Axeman of New Orleans, where they had to play jazz to keep the Axeman from coming in.
Yep.
And then the Servant Girl Annihilator. I think we talked about that one. And that was in Austin, Texas. That one was a little bit earlier. That was the 1880s. But all these very similar axe murder crimes that happened in these same areas, and most of those have not been solved either. So people wonder, are they all related? Are none of them related? Why were so many people axe murdering people at the time?
There's something in the water.
I don't know. It's just a real weird, like, phenomenon, I guess, that happened. And then there is, so a lot of this information came from a Mental Floss article about the subject, which was really fun. There was a New York Post article about it, and I think there was like a Ranker listicle about it that I was reading off of too. So those are the three sources. But in the Mental Floss article at the end, they talk about how there was a couple that was they're true crime writers named Bill James and Rachel McCarthy James. Yeah. And they wrote a book in 2017 called The Man from the Train. And in that book, apparently I've never read it, but in the article they say in the book, way secondhand information.
Yeah,
but
what? Okay.
The article says that in the book, they say that they believe that there was a man named Paul Mueller who was a German immigrant, and they believe that he was actually a serial killer that was crisscrossing the United States, murdering people in a very similar way. And they didn't... He is confirmed to have murdered several families across the United States and Canada, just riding trains, murdering families as he goes, having a great old time, I guess. And they believe his death toll was 90 plus. And all of his crimes were about him breaking into the homes after midnight, murdering everybody in the household with the back end of an axe, and then leaving the axe at the crime scene. So they think that it's possible that he might have been involved in some of the murders that she gets blamed for.
Yeah.
Probably not all of them, but they believe that it's possible that it was a combination of, you know, this crazy axe-wielding serial killer that is known to have been in the area at that time occasionally, and then maybe the girl actually was just an axe murderer as well. So, weird. Just, why were there so many axe murderings in that area at that time?
I believe murders might have been the word you were looking for.
Axe murderings?
Axe murderings.
Axe. I don't know. I'm just like that whole... Why? Like, it's not like there weren't guns. It's not like there weren't other implements of destruction, poison, the whole thing. Why? And if you're going to use an axe, why are you using the blunt end? Yeah. Wouldn't you use the sharp end?
Yeah, that part's always a little weird to me.
Which, I mean, I guess if you're going for a bludgeoning and not just chopping something, it makes sense. But still... Why use an axe then? Why not use any other implement, like a golf club? I mean, like, I don't get it. It's weird.
It's like beating someone with a gun.
Exactly.
Same concept, really.
Which, I mean, happens, but like I said, it's just strange, and I want to know, like, she clearly couldn't have done all of it because she was in jail when several of them happened, so...
Yeah.
What happened? Was she actually involved? Like, and maybe she actually was involved with some kind of like murder club, and they were all going around murder clubbing people.
Voodoo club.
Once again, I don't think Voodoo was actually involved in any way. Let me make that clear. But
you made a promise a minute ago.
She was just running with a good story. But anyway, so that was the maybe serial killer. Maybe not.
Maybe Voodoo?
Clementine Barnabette. What?
Yeah. Maybe Voodoo.
Maybe, but probably not.
Yeah. Well, fuck that then. I was promised voodoo.
Technically, the voodoo was in quotes. You just can't hear the quotes when I say it. Sorry.
Well, yeah, you should have said, by the way, that's in quotes.
That would have given it away, though.
Oh, my God, Leah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Whatever. So, yeah, she definitely did all of it because she was voodooing in the jail.
Yeah, if she had super awesome voodoo sorceress powers, she could probably have committed that from afar, like a bilocation situation, you know?
I agree with you. Well, is that it for that story?
Yeah, that's everything.
Well, what a cheerful story to end it on.
Yeah, axe murders. Huzzah.
Great. I mean, beating murders. It's just that they were beaten with an axe.
Yeah, that makes him an axe murder.
I guess, but... You know, I mean, if someone beat someone with an oar, you wouldn't call it an oar murder.
I would actually call it an oar murder.
Oh, yeah, you might, because you're fucked up. But, you know, normal people aren't going to be like, did you hear about that slew of oar murderings we had?
If there was a slew of oar murderings, I guarantee you people would talk about the oar murders. What the fuck is your problem?
By the way, you got me fucking saying murderings now. Obviously, I wanted to say the slew of oar murders. But,
Sucks
you know.
To suck, man.
Yeah, I feel bad about that. All right, well, do you have a toast ready?
I sure do. And it's real bad.
Well, those are my favorite kind, and you know that.
So excited. Okay.
Are you even trying with the toast anymore?
A little bit.
Not really, but, you know.
Just wait.
Okay.
I gotta stop giggling.
All right. Stop your giggles. Control your giggles. Leah. Good work. This is like when, remember when outtakes were a thing that people loved? And the stars of shows couldn't stop giggling all the time? This is you right now.
Yeah.
You can't stop giggling. Leah.
Okay.
Control it. Be a professional.
I am. Shut up. Let me do this.
Go.
All right, everybody hoist your can of Spirit Guide high into the sky.
Yay.
All right, here we go. I don't really know how the Smiley family died, but I know one thing good and well. I don't need the help of a murderous ghost. I've got my own handbasket to hell.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm. Clementine Barnabette took an axe and gave some families lots of whacks. When the papers heard what she had done, they branded her a priestess of voodoo. That's real bad. I'm sorry,
That
y'all.
whole thing was, like, where was the rhythm there?
I'm tired. And I'm
well, yeah,
drunk.
I understand.
Leave me alone. Let me try it again.
Y'all, Leah's tired. Just don't worry about the toast this
Let me try
week.
it again. God damn it.
Okay, go.
Okay. I don't really know how the Smiley family died, but I know one thing good and well. I don't need the help of a murderous ghost. I've got my own handbasket to hell. Clementine Barnabette took an axe and gave some families lots of whacks. When the papers heard what she had done, they branded her a priestess of voodoo. Drink.
Okay, it's the first one. It's the first half. That part bothers me. I don't understand. It's just like, it's so long. The first stanza, you know? There wasn't enough rhyming going on.
Well, go suck 7 dicks.
No.
Do it.
You know 6 is my limit.
I'm a 6 dicks maxer. Sorry.
Y'all, you know this mouth can't fit more than 6 dicks in it.
I didn't mean all at once. It was like a one at a time situation.
Oh, it's a 1 dick at a time for 7 times thing.
Exactly.
I get it.
We want quality, not quantity, Mitchell.
Oh, I don't know. We could see how wide I could stretch this fucker.
Gross. You're gross. Maybe we should end this.
Yeah, I think you're right. Thank y'all so much for listening to the Southern Spirits Podcast. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Search for Southern Spirits Podcast. We will be there. Join the community chat where the best memes in the world are shared, including one I found on Reddit this week of a raccoon that learned how to finger paint. And goddamn, it's the best thing I've ever seen.
So cute.
Yeah. Send us an email, southernspiritspodcast@gmail.com. If you want to support the show monetarily so we can have more beer and liquor money, join the Patreon, patreon.com/Southern Spirits Podcast. Go listen to the other show on our network, Trailer Trashy. It's been really fun recently. And send us any postcards or other fun stuff to our P.O. Box, which is P.O. Box 1743 in Hartselle, Alabama. I'm going to stop spelling it, by the way. That's getting old. And we enjoyed having you this week, didn't we, Leah?
So much.
I enjoyed having you this week as well. No, I meant on the show. Nope. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time.
Bye, y'all.